What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Thomas Dolby, and we're returning to Shnootz and Heretics 1992. I did want to give a shout out to Mark, who said he could make available Aliens Ate My Buick. I looked through my email. I don't think I have access to it yet. Again, no rush. We still have this album to go through. Big shout out to Stan. But at some point, we'll back up, I think, 4 years. I think Aliens Ate My Buick is 88, and we'll go through that. In any case, the next track on this album is Cruel, which is a simple one-word title, a very clear one, descriptive in an unpleasant way. Cruelty is about being harsh or violent or negative towards something in a way that goes beyond what any amount of functional reasoning might suggest. It's being sadistic or indeed inflicting pain beyond what might be seen as appropriate in a wider context. So cruelty is about being harsh for the sake of being harsh and perhaps even deriving enjoyment from it. I guess that's not explicitly indicated. I feel like that's more connotation rather than denotation. Nevertheless, cruel and cruelty are a very unpleasant notion, at least for most people. I suppose if you are of a sadistic mindset, cruelty is part of what floats your boat or makes you tick. But yes, for most people, and just by the very nature of the semantics of the word, it is something that is unpleasant and beyond a threshold where you might understand why they're being negative or causing distress to someone or something else. So let's see what it's all about. This is Thomas Dolby. The track is Cruel, although now I'm second guessing. Is it Cruelty or is it Cruel? I think it's Cruel, right? Yes, Cruel. And it's from his 1992 album, Shnootz and Heretics.
Cruel, what a thing to do. I've been cruel to you such a long time. And how can I hide my shame? 'Cause there I go again at the wrong time.
And I know that it was just the fear of flying.
Who are you?
And I know it's hard to keep myself from crying. But when my tears are washed away, you still be blind.
Skin diving for Jews. You were a shining pearl in a broken shell under moonlight, and I was cruel.
Tears are washed away, I'll still be blind. Skin diving for jewels.
Cruel, I've been such a fool, and I'll be missing you such a long time. I was cruel.
The soundscape. crazy tune. So, sonically first, we have what sounds like ocean or sea sounds. There's a bit just overall of a live world sound atmosphere. We then have what sounds like respiration, like the track's sort of breathing. We also have these industrial sounds, though some of them seem to be muted or closed off a little bit. So there's a bit of that. Who was it? Gareth Jones, who's the producer that worked with, I think, originally John Fox, and then was also working with Depeche Mode for, was it Construction Time Again? I'm trying to remember the albums that he worked with them on. But where lots of the sounds were sort of industrial, metallic, and clanging and banging. So it felt like a bit of a couple different non-traditional sound schemes, and which don't necessarily feel like they should go together. Again, the sounds of like seabirds and ocean waves sort of lapping against a boat or something, mixed with these metallic and industrial type configurations. So already that's really interesting. Then we get a duet with Dolby and, as of this moment, an unknown female voice. But I did open the master release on Discogs for this album before I did the reaction, because again, I ripped this from a CD that Stan had sent me, and in the moment I didn't have the CD in front of me, which has the track list on it, so I had to make sure I knew what track 2, which is just what it shows in the folder, was titled. But usually if you click on a specific release in Discogs, it'll show you any secondary credits on the individual song, so I'll look for that in a moment. But I really enjoyed her voice. It was sort of soft and emotional. It sounds like from the lyrics that he's the one who's been cruel, and she's the one who's crying away tears, but she seems to be saying that even if she wipes them away, she's still going to be blind. So maybe the longer term effects of this will persist despite the initial pain or hurt. But he seems to be expressing contrition and some measure of remorse, so perhaps he's not cruel anymore, even if he recognizes that he was. I like the moments where she would be doing a line and then he'd come in like true duet form, and they would sort of rise together. So I enjoyed that. Almost reminded me of a bit of a musical feel. I just did a reaction to a tune from the Phantom of the Opera soundtrack, and although that didn't sound anything like the Phantom of the Opera soundtrack, there's moments where people sing in unison, and it felt more like that rather than a pop tune where, sort of they go back and forth more commonly. But yes, a really quirky tune, which does seem, still a very limited exposure to Dolby's material. But it does seem like he's sort of really off on his own path. He's the Robert Frost of the 80s synth-pop crowd. And definitely an unconventional atmosphere overall to the track. And then especially, or rather crystallizing that, is the way the tune ended, which is suddenly everything else kind of evaporates. We get a bit more of the sea sounds, and then it just drops off and finishes very abruptly. So a really remarkable track, one that is hard to process on a first listen. I do wonder what else is there lyrically and thematically. I was so fixated on the interesting sonics and the different sonic flavors that were being put together that I didn't focus on the lyrics as much as I might have otherwise. Again, this is often the case where I listen to a tune the first time and there may be some aspect that attracts my attention, and then over a few more listens I start to hear more and more of the tune, including more and more of the lyrics, and perhaps get a better, clear picture of what the themes are. So again, I look forward to people commenting, but definitely a remarkable track, if a bit of a perplexing one at the same time. So looking forward to more from this album, and again, shout out in advance to Mark if you can make that other, I believe, soundtrack. I think it's like a soundtrack to a movie of the same name, which is a hilarious title for either an album or a movie, I should say. But yes, ultimately shout out to Stan again for sending this and much else, a lot of which I still have yet to go through. I'm not going anywhere, so we'll get through everything if you can stick with me. So big shout out to all the folks who've contributed to the channel, both in terms of their knowledge and insight and comments, but especially those who sent material resources, CDs and records and so on. You were all greatly appreciated. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time. Peace.